Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to EdTechTeam Live, the Google Apps Guidebook with Kern, Kelley, and guest star Zach Mitchell. We'll get started in just 1 minute as we let everyone come in. Hi, everyone. Thanks for coming to EdTechTeam Live.
Mute.
Okay, as you come in, everyone, you'll see the chat on the right-hand side here. And look at everybody coming in. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. Go ahead and introduce yourself in the chat. Say hello, where you're joining us from today, and maybe your experience with either G Suite for Education and with student tech teams. Introduce yourselves, and we'll get started in just a moment. Great, we have folks from Arizona today. Hey, Carol, thanks for joining us. North Georgia from Yvonne, great. Hey, Charity, joining us in Calgary.
People from all over.
I know, huh, guys? This is exciting. Great, so from Lima, we've got a schools tech integrationist. Hey, Dale. Good morning, Amy, Missouri. So we're all over today. So folks, as you join into the back channel, this is interactive, and it's also a great chance for you to connect with others in your personal learning network. Everyone who's here today watching Kern and Zach are all interested in both Google and student learning. So this is a great group to connect with. So at the end, we'll encourage you, share your Twitter handle if you'd like, get connected, continue to build your personal learning network here and the EdTechTeam community. So great, keep introducing yourselves. We'll have this chat up, so if you have any questions for Kern and Zach, we'll be monitoring it. And we'll also be asking you guys questions about your experience, so you can continue the back channel throughout today's session. Perfect. And you can share any cool aha moments on the hashtag EdTechTeam and in our community, community.edtechteam.com. And we will have this archive available right here at the at this link. So if you have to leave or if you want to share this with a colleague later, this link will be live for you. But let's get started, everyone. Thanks for sharing your Twitter handles so other folks can connect with you for sure. Roll Tide, Bridget. Cool. Well, I'm here today with Kern Kelley, the Director of Student Agency for EdTechTeam, and Zach Mitchell. Find Kern Kelley at Kern Kelley. And Kern has been sharing about his tech Sherpas and student tech team for a long time now. And it's been so exciting, Kern, to see in the last year a book come out so that others can both use student-created lessons, but also think about how they can do this with their students at their school. So excited, Kern. How are you?
Yeah, great. I'm happy to be here, and it's a super exciting time to be able to have kids be part of our, the process that we're doing. And for us, the book, the physical book, and we're talking about the Google Apps Guidebook, was kind of like a culmination of a long time. Since 2010, we were down at the Google Teacher Academy in New York, where we started, and I was actually able to bring students. And so when I brought students to that, part of the things when you go to an Innovator Academy now they're called, or a Google Teacher Academy, is you as an educator are expected to do something with that information and have an action plan. And so as I brought students, I brought 3 kids down there, and they presented, they talked about what we've been working on and what we've been doing. And these guys, we were on the ride back to Maine from New York, and they said, Mr. Kelley, we really want to do a student action plan. We want to do something with this information that we learned. Do you have any ideas? And so we kind of chatted back and forth. We're actually on the train ride back north, and we were on the Wi-Fi looking for domain names. And the idea came up with this weekly live tech help show where these students would help teachers, would help other students. As questions came up, they would basically provide tech support. And so since that time, it's blossomed. We have more and more students now. We've done more and more PD around the country and around the world. My students have presented at places literally all over the world at this point. And so the idea really isn't about the technology. That's a great medium for this to happen. But the real benefit of this, the real purpose of this is for our kids to have the opportunities to be able to work with other teachers, be able to present, to be professional, all these things we want them to have. This is just really a way to do that. And so the book, the physical book, is kind of a culmination of that, where we've been working with teachers from around the world for a few years, and we would get the same types of questions pretty regularly, especially around the Google Suite. And so one of the things that we did is we started to create lessons based on that. So if you asked, how do I do this? We'd have a prepared lesson for you. And eventually we just kind of combine them, put them into a book. Zach here is one of my students for my Tech Sherpas this is your 4th year, right?
Yep.
Yep. So Zach started as a freshman, and actually he's a senior now. So this will be it. This is the last year. And
what are you gonna do, Kern, without Zach?
I don't know. It's great because it works up the rung, and the running joke is who gets to choose where they sleep when we go to hotels, like who gets the bed versus have to sleep on the floor. So so he's got to work his way up to that level, which is awesome. And so now we're kind of looking, I always have new students coming. Somebody will ask me, like, how do you get the students you do? How does that work? And one of the ways that we get students is I don't start as a high school level working with students. I actually start all the way down as, K through 12. You think about, you don't have a winning sports team. Your senior year, you actually have it, you start and you kind of recruit and you work with kids all the way through. So I'm working with students as young as, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, where they are, learning how to be professional, how to teach somebody, how to work with somebody. And then by the time they hit middle school and high school, they've been doing it for a long time. So it's not really that big of a deal. And I don't know, Zach, we work in middle school and, all the way through. So.
What are you going to do now, Zach?
Not quite sure yet.
Will technology be involved, do you think, in how you'll eventually change the world one day?
Hopefully.
Yeah, I have no doubt. I'm sure that. He'll be
maybe now he maybe wants to be an actor.
Actually, this is a good. What's your senior project this year? Explain what your senior project was.
My senior project, I worked with Kern. The school district does like a safety kind of video per se, where the teachers or all the staff actually go on, they fill out a Google form saying, hey, this is my name, this is what I'm signing up for, like a bus driver, nurse, lunch provider, teacher, and they choose their job. And then what I had to do was program the Google form to automatically send them an email saying, hey, these are all the videos you need to watch for that specific job. And it just kind of made it a little easier than what we had before.
Yeah, this all revolves around that kind of training that we all have to do in our work, like ladder training or bloodborne pathogens, or all these different things every year OSHA requires in the United States anyway that you have to take. And so we had outsourced that before, and I was talking with Zach about maybe this would be a good senior project, and so we did. So we basically built a system for our district to be able to, so we don't have to pay somebody else to manage all that stuff. So that's pretty neat.
Awesome.
Let's jump down here. So I mentioned while we were on that train ride back from New York, and the kids were kind of talking ideas, and the idea we came up with was the Tech Sherpas. And one of the reasons why we came up with that name was because literally the domain was available. TechSherpas.org was a big part of that. So one of the students, right on the laptop, right on the train, came up with the logo right there. And by the time we had back, we had a website, we had a domain name. And the idea was we were going to basically have a web repository for teachers to ask us questions. We would create tutorials, videos, and then we'd offer those to them. So if you had, how do I do X? We'd be able to create a video for you that would, spit it back. This was also the time frame that Google Hangouts came out more formally, as far as like they were actually doing live Hangouts on air like this. This is when it first was introduced. So we thought that'd be a great way to not only create a video, but also produce it and actually, make it public so anybody can watch it any time. And so we started doing that kind of a weekly show where, kids would come in and look at the questions we received during the week, find the answer to that question, and create a tutorial based on that. And so, if you head on to the next slide real quickly, you'll see we had one of our local channels, Channel 5, come down and record our kids and kind of show how they're, giving back. We've had people from literally all over the world ask us questions and create videos, and we send them back to them. They're all archived. They're all available at TechSherpas.org, and that's where all of our repository of all of our work is.
And look at that.
Yeah, there's that. Years ago, bud.
Yeah.
And I'll ask in the chat right now really quick, Kern, maybe how are you currently, maybe folks aren't doing student tech answered support, but I'd love to just hear from the chat how you're currently doing support at all for technology. What does your current support look like? Does it involve students? Do you want it to? Just to get a beat from the community on what your current support situation is like. Thanks, Kern. Keep on rolling.
No, for sure. It's one of those things that, you know, the students that you have that are the ones that are, you know, maybe they're trying to get around the firewall because they're curious, or they're really banging on the system like, oh, how do I do this? Those are the ones you want to bring into the fold and say, hey, you know what? Let's use your forces for good rather than evil, right? Let's you know, the stuff that we're working on together, let's figure out ways to help people with that. And generally speaking, almost every time you work on a little child, they want to do that. They're just curious. They want to learn this stuff. And for me, the technology is just the excuse to do it. It's like the medium for it to be in. But the real value of that is for them to learn how to be professional, how to work with other people. All these things we want them to do. This is a real thing that they have to do. We have some of our students, they're a webmaster for a teacher. And what that means is that the work that the teacher does, they'll tell the student, hey, can you throw this up? Can you add this picture? Can you add this link? And the student will do that. And the thing is, that's a real project. And when they do this, other people are going to see this, parents, students, and so forth. So they've got to put their best work out there. It can't just be, you know, oh, I'm just doing this as an assignment for teachers. It's actually a real thing. And that really makes a difference, I think. Let's jump ahead. So let's ask a question, too, of the group. How are you using technology, using students to support technology in your district? Again, and this is something that you're interested in or that you would like to, but you haven't really, you know, made that leap yet. We have a website that we support, the tech trip called teachtoloearn.org, and it is on the show notes there. It's teachtoloearn.org. And the benefit of that is, the purpose of that is, I get asked a lot, you know, as I travel and do this work, how would I start? Where do I even start? Where does it look like? What's a tech team look like? It sounds like a lot of work. And these are basically the steps that I would recommend, like where you start from, you know, choosing a location, getting a group of like-minded students, you know, coming up with a logo and a name for your group that really gives that kind of coherent, like we are the, somebody just mentioned in the chat, we are the iSense, which is a cool name. You know, we're the Tech Sherpas. I've heard other groups, you know, we're the iWizards, or there's a group right now in Pennsylvania that we worked with, that they're going to be Delta, and that stands for, you know, Dallas Town. I can't remember the whole acronym, but so we come up with a great name that kids kind of, you know, collaborate around. Once you've got that idea, and then you start looking for projects. And again, these could be something high end, like, you know, they're going to be the webmasters for a teacher, or these could be something really simple that they just want to start making resources for teachers, or just do that kind of work and make it real. And then the ultimate goal is, I find it the most beneficial, the most heartwarming for me is when a teacher will say, oh yeah, I talked to Zach using class today, I had him help me with something, and I was out of the loop. It wasn't going through me to find a student. It was just, they knew that these kids were responsible, and they were, you know, they could ask them questions, and they do. And that's another benefit too, is if you can have your students be part of your own district-wide or school PD, that's a great thing as well, because what will happen is the teachers there in the room will see these students around and know they're there to help. And so that kind of, next time they're, you know, if you're not available, they'll say, oh, I saw Zach was in the room with me. Can I ask you a question? And the other benefit of this too is, when you talk about the students, you know, I've had one student, one girl, she came to me and she's like, oh, are you going to be the webmaster for Mrs. Smith? And I was like, great. She said, well, what if she asks me something I don't know? I said, well, think about that. What if? You know, what's the worst that can happen? You just say, I don't know. It's no big deal. And that's okay. And that's kind of that, you know, it's okay to kind of figure this stuff out as we go and we're in this together, especially with students and teachers. And it's rare for our students to see their teachers learning. It does happen, but not that often, not often enough, where, you know, technology is a great way for that to be, you know, like, it's okay, we're all learning this together.
That's awesome, Kern. And just looking at the chat, Wendy was mentioning, you know, a lot of educators are coming from having no IT department at all, or you know, or they've been saddled maybe with these duties for sure. Jeanne was sharing she is the tech department, so that can be the starting point for many of you, and leveraging interested in it, and giving leadership too, Kern. I mean, just seeing the leadership that, and how the students you've worked with just have evolved into great leaders and teachers themselves. So
yeah, no question. And that's kind of the end game. We've had certain individuals, and Zach's one of these, where during the day, you know, regular class day, because somebody asked, well, where do you get the time? And not for everybody, but for certain individuals, certain students that can handle this, they can get to the point where they might get an all call. Hey, Zach, Mr. DeFred would like to see you. And he's responsible enough to say, you know what, I'm in class, but I know this content. I'll ask the teacher, is it okay if I go? If they can't, no big deal. But if they can, they can go and go take care of that teacher and take care of them. What happens is the other students in the room say, wait a second, why does that get to do that? You know, and they build that trust. These students build this trust that we know that they're going to do the right thing. They're doing it because we trust them to get to that point. I have had students that would love to do this, that I've had very candid conversations, and I know I'm not able to trust them to that level. I can't leave them unattended without them, you know, trying to do something they shouldn't be. And so I've had kind of conversations. Look, you're going to be, someday you're going to be, you know, somebody's going to hire you and you're going to be an employee, and they need to be able to trust you as well, and you're showing that now. So these are the real life examples that we want them to have experience doing, not just, here's an assignment and here's a back. And these are, ways for that to happen. The other benefit of jumping ahead, you see actually the slide's on right now. This is some of our students down in ITSD in Pennsylvania. I believe this was 2 years ago, or maybe it was last year. And so this gets us next level where you will have certain individual students that can and will present with you. And I bring students, we go to conferences, we do workshops, and you obviously can start local and kind of spread from there, but it's really a win-win. The teachers in that room want these kids to succeed. They want to see them, help them out. And the students, of course, they're building those professional skills. They're building those presentation skills. I always tell the students, presenting to somebody or speaking to somebody, it's not something that you can read about in a book or watch a video and then know how to do it. You have to do it and do it and do it and do it. It's like foul shots. You have to keep practicing and practicing. You can't just want to be it. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, right? So we want to put our students in these situations where they can very, effectively and really in winning situations, they can, try this out, basically practice. And of course we do, presentations in our own school, like every class does, but then you kind of expand. Maybe they're presenting to the staff, or maybe they're presenting to another class or another school. And as it grows out, they get to the point where we had students, I think it was 2 years ago in Edmonton, one of my students presented to 2,000 educators. Okay, so if you think about that, probably a lot of the teachers haven't presented or haven't spoken in front of 2,000 educators. So to be able to get to that place is really worthwhile, because that's it's a value add, they can say. Last year we had two of our students, actually two of the girls that worked a lot in the book, went with us down to Hawaii, and they presented at this was the biggest technology conference for educators on the Big Island that they've ever had. I think it was like 600 people or something like that. And so they presented about their book and the work they did. And that's the kind of experiences that we want to get to. Education isn't about consumption, it's about creation. It's about them creating these things and building these things and sharing them. Jump ahead here. So moving on to techsherpas.org, we've evolved a little bit in the sense that now we've added more, like I said, we're doing more things. We actually, with the book, we kind of revamped our logo. Austin, who was one of the girls I mentioned that presented in Hawaii, kind of refreshed the logo, and EdTechTeam has been amazing in helping us kind of move this forward, and really, it's been just an incredible opportunity for our kids and for me and so forth. So as we go forward, I'm just envisioning more of the same, basically. We've reached out, I mentioned that website earlier, teach2learn.org, and one of the things that it does is it has links to any of the tech teams out there that would like to connect. I don't know if you've got other students that are doing basically the same thing, let us know. And we have a repository of a community that we've had all kinds of tech teams from around the world just put their logos on and put who they're about, and then maybe we'll do a live hangout sometime, just chatting with each other, or kind of figuring out this worked for us, what worked for you, and maybe it's different in in Hawaii or in Japan or in South Korea or wherever it is that we're connecting with, all these different places around the world. So I think it's worthwhile for us to be able to make that connection and do that.
And it's great. Chantel was just sharing in the chat. One of her tech students got the chance to give an Ignite speech at a summit. So as Kern mentioned, that's a great idea. And I know Charity's her own Zach, who is Davis, has presented before too. So if you're thinking about putting your toes in the water and bringing to action what Kern's talking about, you certainly could apply to present with your student at a summit. A summit is a great place to get started in this. Or we had mentioned in the chat too, state conferences, etc. So lots of great opportunities to just give it a try. But if you're interested, look at the summits that are coming up nearby, events.edtechteam.com. You can see what's coming up and think about maybe applying to present with your student.
Yeah, I think that's a fantastic way. Again, it's one of those things that you can't replicate otherwise. It's one thing to present to your class of students all the time, you see every day, but you're going to present to somebody else, you kind of up your game. And that's what we want our students to kind of feel comfortable in that role. Now, I'm very cognizant I never put students in a situation where they're not going to succeed. Like, I don't just throw them to the wolves. By the time these students have presented to 500 to 1,000 teachers, they've been presenting for a long time with me. They've done a lot of experience. And so that's what you want to give them, every opportunity you can. So by the time they get there, it's almost boring. It's no big deal. They've been doing it all along. What's the big deal, right? That's what we want. They get to that place. So Jumping ahead a little bit, next slide there, we'll talk about, so the one other component of the book, not only does it have, a dozen lessons or so using Google tools in the classroom, it also has the final component is to become Tech Sherpa certified. And what that means is if your students go through this whole process, one of the components you get with this is called a course book. It's basically just a glorified Google spreadsheet that has all kinds of different resources on it, and they fill that in, and when they turn that into my Tech Sherpas, the students look it over and they give them a certificate, basically saying you've gone through this process, you're now Tech Sherpa certified, and they can use that. And we have one school, Dallastown, Pennsylvania, we worked with, and they're having 100 students go through that process, and when they're done, they're now going to go work with other students and teachers to get them certified. So it's kind of, paying forward. We start with 100 students, and then it'll be 500 students, and there'll be 1,000 students, and so forth. So that's kind of the end game. As a process, if you're a teacher that wants to use Google tools in your classroom, looking for lessons and ways to do that, that's what this is for. Basically, that's what this is for. It gives you ideas. And I'll have Zach, actually, this is probably a good time. Zach, you haven't spoken for a little while. Why don't you I'll have Zach do one of the lessons from the book.
Yeah.
There it is. Let's just jump real quickly here. It's chapter 8. So this is talking about taking selfies, which of course students love to do. And we're going to use a Chrome app, a web app, to be able to do those kind of pictures that everyone's seen where they're black and white, but it might be like a little boy holding an apple and just the apple is red or just one color. So we'll show you how to do that. You all set, Zach?
Alrighty.
We'll do screen share. No.
Oh yeah.
Come on up, Zach. Awesome.
So what we're gonna do is, if I can get out of this, there it is. So you're gonna open up your Pixlr editor, and actually no, you're gonna want to get a picture with the camera app on your Google. So hold on, let me get something colorful.
St. Patrick's Day. That's where we go.
Yeah, exactly. So what you're gonna do is just take a picture, and it's gonna save it, and then save that to the desktop, right?
Yep.
I took one earlier. So click this, save it to the desktop, hit select. Now we gotta go find it. That's the tricky part. So just hit File, Open Image, then should be in here, right there. Perfect. So then once you got your picture loaded up, what you're going to do is go up here to Layer, Duplicate. What that does is put one on top of the other. Right now it doesn't really make a difference, but you'll see it in a minute. So what you're going to do is click on the background copy, adjustment, and then I can't really see it. It's desaturate. What that does is turns it black and white. Now the reason why we have two copies here is if I click this check mark, it kind of hides this layer, and you can see that there's still color underneath of it. So we're going to click that back and show the black and white photo. Now to get the color to pop out, all you got to do is grab the eraser and just start erasing, and it'll pop the color out for you. It's kind of tedious, but it's a big hat, so it's easy.
Nice and green. We usually do this when we do it with our kids. We have them wear silly hats and funny, glasses and stuff that's really colorful, so it makes it easier for them to be able to do this component of it. And we'll have kids that will, take the time and really kind of pick one color to kind of focus on.
Yeah. You can also do a T-shirt too.
Nice.
So yeah. And then you can do all kinds of different things. Like when we go to summits, we usually present. The class is called How to Take a Selfie with a Monkey, and we use Pixlr to kind of Photoshop a monkey over your shoulder so it looks like you're taking a selfie with a monkey.
You did Pokemon one place, and you did
when Pokemon Go came out, I presented how to take a selfie with a Pokemon, so that was pretty cool. But the book covers all of that and more.
That's one of the lessons in here. And the idea is that you'll go through, and that would be one piece, one tool that you now have in your tool set, or your students do, that they can apply to the entire thing. Meaning like, oh yeah, now I want to take this picture, we want to put this into a Google slideshow, which we're using as our visual portfolio, or whatever. Like it all kind of builds together.
Awesome. And Kern, I brought up on the screen.
Which one? I'm sorry?
I brought up here on the screen an example of what the lesson step by step looks like, and I think that's what's cool. What Zach just showed us is kind of that that step-by-step creation that teachers or other students might need, and that's the flow of the entire book. Yeah.
That's exactly right. The idea is that you, as either as a teacher working with students, and say, okay, everybody, this is what we're going to do together, or if you're an individual student or individual teacher, you'd walk through and it has screenshots of every component. So like first click here with a screenshot, then click here, and it walks you through. And when you're done, you would hand it in or digitally to this course book, is what you're looking at here, and that's a single sheet that would have all of your work, and that's what you kind of hand in. So it's kind of digitizing all that as well. It's really a whole system is really the idea. Cool. So let's jump ahead.
Awesome. If you have any questions for Zach about that particular lesson, or what the lesson format looks like in the Google Apps Guidebook, or if you have any ways, templates that you've created, tasks or lessons, or had students create lessons like this before, please share in the chat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we love hearing back from, either taking ideas and expanding with them or things we hadn't thought about. That's a really great way for us to share, with each other, really kind of give back to the community.
Yeah, and a couple questions came in, Zach and Kern, about certification. Bridget had the idea of, I wonder if using this book plus reaching like a level 1 certification could be an elective class. Someone earlier mentioned their student tech team is a class that they're starting out offering very soon. So it'd be great to hear from you, Kern, to hear if one, how to turn this into a class. Is that something you recommend? And certification options using either Google for Education's level 1 or how or tech, Sherpa certification, or what kind of options could there be?
For sure. I think that they complement each other pretty well. Level 1 is very tool focused, and the idea is when they're done, they know how to use that tool. So I know how to use, Google Slides, or I know how to use, Google Sheets, or whatever it is. This obviously uses the tools, but the idea is when you're done, the students have created something. They may have created animation. They may have created a slide deck. They might have created their imaging. They might have created, an All About Me form that's interactive. Like, the whole purpose of this is meant to be projects that if you're doing something in your class, let's say this month you're teaching frogs, or this month you're looking at the, some component in history, or whatever it is, you can take these projects and you can apply them, to adapt them to your content as a teacher. Now, again, that coincides pretty well with the level 1 bootcamp or level 1 certification, which is more tool focused. So here's the tool, and here's what you can do with it. And it might be valuable. I know certain teachers will just flip through and said, oh, this thing right here, this project right here is really useful to us. We can go use this right now for this, for whatever they're doing. So that's really the idea. I really wanted it to be something where, teachers in the classroom can take this and also differentiate it. We really worked hard to make it what's called low floor and high ceiling. The lessons themselves can be pretty easy. There's an animation lesson using Google Slides, which the kids absolutely love. And we've got down to, I've used it as young as 2nd and 3rd graders actually do the lesson. But because it's kind of very creative in its nature, once they learn how to do the tool set, then the sky's the limit. And I've had kids, high school kids, that have made beautiful, gorgeous animations on, different topics like water cycle, or, life cycle of a butterfly, or who knows what, any kind of different ranges. You've done a lot of the animation as well, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how fun is it?
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Just the endless possibilities of what you can do with it is kind of amazing. And my favorite one, I think, is the one that Austin Taylor made with her squirrel in the tree.
We'll have to play out. I see that she's showing it right now.
Oh, yep. Yeah. That one.
Yeah. So that was a pretty advanced one. But at the same time, that only took I think 2 periods to do. Like, it wasn't like, we're not talking months or anything like that. Mostly it's once you learn the tool set, you learn how to do each piece, then it's just, creativity. When you think of what you come up with. And
I love it. It keeps going too. I just keep, it's this loop of this.
I have to admit, so my son, who's a 6th grader, and he absolutely loves making animations, he got to the point where he was handing in all of his homework using these animations, to the point where, like, the teachers finally said, okay, this is math homework, can you please just not, he would animate every single problem. It got to be kind of ridiculous, but he just loved it. So
well, and that's really neat to show that some of these lessons take complex topics. Like, I feel like what Zach showed earlier with the selfie, some of that stuff can be kind of intimidating, once you get to higher level image editing or animation, and there's some robust software that does both of those things. But I think all of the lessons in the guidebook make it super accessible, like the squirrel that I'm not going to stop watching now. And I did bring up Kern really quick. I just have here on the screen just some screenshots from the book so folks can see a bit about more about the format. But I really love how the screenshots make it really easy to you know, walk through setting up. And so there's also kind of the lesson you know, objective, but there's also that step-by-step nature that's there that's super helpful from the students. So
well, I really wanted to make sure that if there was a student individual at some school that they were interested in this, they want to do this, that the student themselves just said, you know what, I'm just, you know, I don't know if the district's going to do it, but I want to, they could. And so that's kind of that step-by-step.
Cool.
Awesome. So that brings us into perhaps the next level is after you have the book, perhaps, or you have, you know, the tech team you're working with. We have a thing we call student summits, and what those are is myself, or one of my roles is director of student agency for EdTechTeam, and so I get the privilege of working with kids all over the place. And so we've had student summits this year. We've had them in Japan. We've had one in Texas. We're going to have one in Delaware in May. We're heading down to Delaware. And so basically the idea is that we work with your students, either my students do or our students do or adults do, and get them to go, you know, kind of get them excited about these tool set. It can be a day or 2-day event, and we go through and do all kinds of, you know, it might be Google tools, it might be STEM tools. We're going to be doing 3D printing and robotics. We're going to have a drone session, how to use drones in the classroom, which is going to be super cool. Excited about that one, down in Delaware. And so all these different ideas, and basically to showcase, you know, and having them actually in action. One of the things I get asked is, you know, what do you see as one of the most effective things that pushes the ball forward? Like as far as, you know, getting teachers involved, getting them invested. We always have outlier teachers that are there. Probably every one of your, you know, the people on the chat right now is, you know, one of those teachers that's like gung-ho and doing this stuff. So how do we bring those teachers that aren't? And I personally have found one of the most effective ways is if you work with the students. We go into students to either a school or a district for a day and get them pumped about being there. Wow, we get to use this stuff. I can't believe this. And get them all excited. Come Monday, it's really difficult for a teacher to say, no, I decide we're not going to do that. They're like, no, I know how to do animations now. This is why I want to do this. Or I know how to make, you know, images of myself. Or I know how to do this, and this, you know, projects. That they want to use those things. And so especially when the teachers are involved in that, when they're there, they're present during the event, that makes it even better because they're learning beside their students. And we found that to be really effective. And so that's studentsummits.org. It's a super fun and really high energetic way for them to kind of bring this, you know, excitement that we have. I think we have at our summits, our adult summits, but for their kids, for their students. Just looking at the questions here. Oh, a quick question about ideas for drones. So there are a couple different levels of drones and how you use them in the classroom. The high end, the very highest end, is kind of like the videography drones that they're using now. We actually have a gentleman coming. We have a broadcasting course that we do in our high school. Actually, that's the room we're in right now. You can see all the cables behind us for our local access channel. And so we're going to use drone footage to be able to record, you know, for the events that we can do. It might be for sports games. It might be for one of the things that we're going to be doing in the next couple of years. We have a local heron population that we track, where our students actually track of how many new baby herons are born each year and where they go. We actually tagged one last year, and it went from Maine to Cuba and back. And so we've been able to do that kind of cool thing. And one of the benefits of having the drone in that case is we're going to fly above them and be able to see, hopefully the plan is to see in the nest, to be able to you know, track them that way and actually see the eggs and see stuff hatching. So that's a cool end. At the other end of the spectrum, if you want to just kind of get started out on that kind of thing, there's one called the parrot drone. And there's a number of these different flavors of those, but what that does is not only can you fly it regular like you would like a smaller drone, but it also has the ability to program it with an app called Tickle and Tinker. Can program it. So what that means is you can start coding, which we do coding classes with our kids, but now they're actually coding something that has a physical replication. It's not just coding, seeing something on the screen. They're actually coding it here, and they're seeing the results live happen. You can, of course, do that with Spheros or another piece of hardware, or Ollies, another piece of hardware that will do this, so you can code them. But there's something magical about coding over here, hitting play, and watching a drone fly up and fly around and take a picture and turn around and do all these components. So it kind of brings it up to that next level that kids are really super interested in. And one last thing, go ahead.
Kern, we did have a question about the is there a digital version of the Google Apps Guidebook or a digital resource just because of the changing nature of some of the tools?
Yeah, absolutely. So GoogleAppsGuidebook.com will bring you to a site. There's, of course, a paperback version, but there's also an e-version, which is on Amazon and all the usual suspects. And that's something that we're working on updating as things change. A good example of this is recently they announced that Google Classroom now can offer, anybody can join that has a Google account, not just inside of a school domain. We do have a Google Classroom chapter that basically kind of helps teachers set their Google Classroom up if they want to work with that. And also Google Keep now, which was an awesome tool. It was kind of a lab tool, but now it's actually one of the official tools that you can use in, with your Google app. So those are things that we'll keep adding. They're in the book, but we'll update them to be a little bit more fresh as we go forward.
Awesome, thanks for that. I dropped the link in the chat, folks. What about, particularly Joanne wants to know in K-5, I know you mentioned working with students as young as 2nd grade, but forming the team that early, if somebody is in just a K-5 situation, any tips for actually doing a team in K-5?
Absolutely. No question. One of my most successful groups that I work with, we have a K-8 school. And so the 7th and 8th graders that I work with will go down and help the K-1-2 classes. And what happened, at first I thought I'd have to go down. I worked with the kids. I'd have a group of younger kids, second or first graders, with my 8th graders and 7th graders, or even 5th graders would be the same type of thing. And I was saying, oh, I'll have to show these kids how to, interact with these younger kids, whatever. So I did a little scenario and we worked on something. And then after I got up and I had the kids do it, and they were way better than I was. They were way better because those little 1st graders and 2nd graders would do anything for that cool 8th grader or that cool 5th grader, right? Because they would be like, oh, when they come in there, they'd do anything for them. So you really, but when a success story I feel is when I get to the point where the teachers of those students, those 1st grade and 2nd grade students, were no longer asking me to ask the students, they were just asking the students directly to come down. And the other benefit of that is we get to the point where we do a lot of digital portfolios and a lot of digital work in our district, where my 7th and 8th grader students were digitizing the work, helping them of the teachers, of the 1st grade, 2nd grade teachers, to the point where they would come in, the teacher would be there, but they wouldn't have to do all the legwork. I'll push all the buttons for it. And then the student would go around, maybe they're taking photos, maybe they're taking videos, whatever it is. They really do that workflow for them. So it was a huge benefit. And of course the kids loved it. So I would highly recommend, even a 5th grade working with younger kids, whatever scenario you have and can work out is a great thing.
That's awesome. And on the other spectrum, it looks like a couple of folks in the chat are Batman, and a couple other folks are talking about the older students. So vocational training, internships as well, or starting to work with some more advanced things like solar installations and doing things that are actually helping out the school and authentic kind of technical stuff. So it's neat to see that as well. Do you have any tips for either vocational or internship, talking about where Zach's going to work next year? Dale, it looks like Dale already offered Zach a job to come down.
So it's funny you say that. We were at a workshop, this was a couple of years ago, but we were at a workshop in Boston, and the company TechSmith was there at the time, and I had one of my students present. And afterward, actually it was Chris Redmond, it was before your time, but so he came up. So the gentleman came up. He was from a corporation. He said, "What year are you?" And he said, "I'm a sophomore." He said, "Oh, I'm interested. He's my business card. I'm interested in hiring you." And he said, "No, sophomore in high school." He thought he was in college because he was, very poised and being able to do this. So, of course, the experiences of this is good for them, right? Because they can talk about to their, prospective job interviews or college interviews or whatever. But also back a little bit to that, conversation about, talking about authentic work. That's the key there, is authentic. One of the things that we do now, you can see actually over my shoulder here, here's a 3D printer. And we have a number of these around the school, around the district that teachers have access to. And this is just as an example, when you have a 3D printer come in, or new technology of any kind, everybody's like, oh, I want to go try that out. And so one of the things that we've done is all of our students pretty much want to come and they want to make something on it. And usually they want to make a phone case. Can I make an iPhone case for my phone? Well, that's kind of like, the big thing, right? So what we talk with them is, okay, before, we're not going to be a problem solver yet. We want you to become a problem finder. What that means is you're going to go find a problem that we don't even know exists right now. And then we'll use this tool, in this case a 3D printer, for example, to find a solution. And so the idea is that kids actually become aware of like, oh, we had a student actually 2 years ago figure out that one of the components, one of the pieces of their lunch tables was routinely breaking, and the janitors kept having to ordering new ones and replacing them. So they were able to reverse engineer that piece. It's just a little plastic piece, and then do a 3D printed model of the same thing, and that's what now they use to replace it for much cheaper than would have had to order it. And so the idea there is that they're actually looking for things to help out with, and real projects, real issues that we're working through, and then with real solutions. So that's really the key, that authentic piece of it.
That's awesome. And I put in the chat if anyone wants to share an authentic connection to, you know, any lessons that they're using Google with, or that their student tech teams are doing. Do share any authentic examples you have as well in the back channel. Kern, I'm going back to the registration for this webinar for some questions that came in. And there's quite a few, actually, if you or Zach wouldn't mind using G Suite and Google Apps for math classrooms and math integration. Are there any lessons that could be applicable in the Google Apps Guidebook to math integration?
For sure. Two specifically come to mind. One would be we talk about the Google Slides. If you're doing any kind of, you know, geometry or that kind of stuff, obviously. And it's not just a case of like, here's a shape and here you go. It's actually interact with them, and, you know, they give you guidelines, and you can really use that, you know, as almost as a desktop publisher, more so than just a slideshow. That's the use case of it. And so that's a really quick one. But a more advanced one might be, we have an example of this, is we go into depth with some of the higher end tools of Google's Sheets and Forms. And so, for example, we have some teachers that are using Forms to do all their self-grading quizzes, and they're working there. And inside Sheets itself, it's a very powerful tool to do all kinds of, you know, maybe graphing or data collection or data, you know, analysis and manipulation, all that kind of stuff. And we do a pretty broad brush with that, where we talk about a lot of different formulas and functions. And actually, you're going to be doing a session on that in Delaware, I think. We talked about that on Slides or Sheets itself. So yeah. I think that's a huge, really powerful tool that you could use in math, and, you know, very, very useful, and that's built into this. Yeah.
Awesome. What do you think, Zach? A question for you would be, what is kind of the most popular question you get from teachers thinking of something very curricular like math? Is math really popular when you're helping teachers? Is it more just getting them to function? Is it integrating projects? What do you think from the Tech Sherpas? What are some of the most popular things that you get asked?
I think the most questions I get asked is just trying to get things to work. It's not like, hey, I want to do this for my class. It's like, how come this isn't working? But it's fun to help them with that. Like our gym teacher uses Google spreadsheets to grade his classes, and every now and then he's like, hey, this isn't working. When I do this happens.
Explain how you set that up, like with the iPod and stuff. Explain the forms.
On an iPod?
Like you puts the forms in, Google Forms.
Oh, he does it on iPod. Oh, that's new. I don't know. I haven't had his class.
Because he'll walk around, and that's how he scores.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't had his class in a while, so that must be new. But I'll have to learn how to do that. But yeah, I mean, he's called me into his office before, and he's like, "Hey, I need this to do this. It's not doing this. What's going on?" And I sit down with him, figure out the problem, and I explained, "Oh, this is what went wrong. Here's how you can fix it. If this happens again, do this." And then I'm always available if he ever needs help. So.
Well, for sure, and I think sometimes that can be the barrier. You know, technology shouldn't be difficult to use, and then you might lose teachers who otherwise wanted to integrate it. So I think that technical functionality and having experts is so helpful.
If they have somebody in the classroom, they know they can ask. Even if they don't get, you know, they don't know, but at least they start there. They're more likely to ask, right? They're like, hey, you know, Zach, can you help me with this and whatever. So it's not like, oh, now I need to email the tech department. I have to wait for them to respond. You know, a bigger deal.
Awesome. Cool. Let's see if we have, thanks for sharing some, a math example and maybe an example of helping out teachers. If you have any questions, particularly around any of the lessons in the Google Apps Guidebook, or for Zach and Kern about starting a tech club, please throw that in the chat. Oh, cool. I like Bridget's sharing right now about mentoring as an effective approach, right? So not just even, a couple folks were talking about those partnerships between younger grades and older grades, but even having that mentorship between a high school and an elementary school. Very cool idea. Talking about after school tech team. do you guys have any experience with creating it as an after school option? I know we've talked about an elective for in class. Any tips for someone who might be wanting to think about doing this after school or lunchtime?
Yeah, two quick things about that. One, like at our high school level, we have it as an actual course, which is great. At our middle school level, it's not. It's usually like recesses, like you said, study halls, that kind of thing. One thing I find at middle school level, and that's why I really focus on making sure I touch a lot of kids down there, is that they have time. High school kids start getting, girlfriends and boyfriends and cars and other things going on in their lives, and we're at college or whatever, so time is more of an issue. Middle school kids, generally speaking, are more free. We do after school stuff. If you do, one real quick thing I think is a real great way to just get started if you're looking for something is the CS First program. It's from Google, csfirst.com, I believe. And what they do is basically they provide you all the resources you would need to have like an after school club or whatever for kids. They're talking specifically about coding, and they have great projects for that, which is awesome. And so you can certainly start there, but of course, very quickly you could bridge it off into anything. You could be talking about other, hardware or projects or whatever it is. So that's a great repository. It's a great, the resources there are fantastic. They walk the students through, they have lots of different videos explaining what's going on. I really highly recommend that program too for that. And at the elementary school level, I really make it a point to just grab kids that will be like, oh, we're working on a project, and I might work with them individually or maybe with a small group, and make sure they're helping other people with that. So I'll say, hey, Susie, I'm going to show you how to do this, and can you go show the other two kids? And they like to, they love it. So they go over and they'll show them. And as they're teaching somebody else, obviously they're learning it, right? They're learning it better than they would have otherwise. So that's kind of the model there.
Awesome, cool. Yeah, and it looks like there's a couple ideas about a summer camp as well. So, but really interesting to note about ages and getting things started and making the most of time, valuable time for sure. Cool. And another question that came in the registration was, in the guidebook or in your experience as a Tech Sherpa, what are the best tools out there for recording student learning or recording student teacher reflection or teacher instruction? What do you guys think are the best tools for that?
We're talking video recording?
Yeah, I think capturing, it could be video, could be the best way to capture student thinking, or yeah.
Well, for video stuff, I mean, we use cameras. Obviously, we use regular video cameras like we have here for the high-end stuff. We're actually working on a project. Let me see it right here. So this is a little bit, it's not ready for prime time yet, so it's a little bit of sneak peek. But what it is so with our 3D printer, one of the projects that our social studies or our history departments asked for is they have Chromebooks, and they want to be able to use them almost as a video camera to record video, which you can. There's Chrome apps. One really good one I like is called Loom, L-O-O-M, and it's a free Chrome app. You can download the video afterward, and then you can edit it in like WeVideo or YouTube Editor or something like that. But to record, one of the issues is the laptop, of course, the camera is facing back to you like a regular laptop would. And so that's fine generally, but if you're recording somebody else, if you're gonna like interview them and ask them questions, it's a little bit discerning to see the camera, yourself as you're doing it. And so what they wanted to be able to do is to be able to have the camera and face it the other way. And so some of my students at my high school right now are working on building a system basically that will connect to a laptop like this, like a Chromebook, and we'd actually have a mirror in the middle here that would turn it. You grab it, yeah, we'll throw it in. So it would actually face the other way, and so we'd be able to just slide this on. Here we go. We got a mirror here, and so this mirror would turn. So that camera app, and I'm not going to be able to hold it right here, but would just fit right on, and then it would be just like that. You actually can see me in it. And so this is our latest project that we're working on, or a couple of my kids are working on. And the idea, again, is very real, right? When you're done with this, we'll be able to offer this as a 3D model to educators all over the world who are looking for the same type of, they have a problem. This is a way to fix that. And very inexpensive.
And I think that's what's so cool about having the Tech Sherpas and having, we got the Techno Club from Super Qual here on the chat. It's, having this, I feel anyway, it's like you're that much stronger as an educator, Kern, you having, Zach and everyone there to bounce ideas around or to think of new apps, like things are changing every day. And so to have this, almost these colleagues with your students as well with technology, I think makes you that much more powerful of an educator and stronger to do these kind of things, like solving problems and giving them something authentic. So super powerful stuff for sure. And how cool to be able to make something that somebody would want. I mean, that's what's so exciting. And I mean, that's what this book is too, is, being student created is creating something that other people need is really exciting, Kern and Zach, for sure. Cool. I'm going to go ahead, guys, now, if you want, Kern and Zach, I'm going to go ahead and throw our video link for our questions. Do you guys have time?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. Out to our chat. So you don't have to come in, but if you have any outstanding questions, I saw a question about trust from Christy, so I'll ask that in a second once we get people in. But I'm going to go ahead and throw the direct link to come join Zach and Kern. We like to do this at the end of our author hangouts to give you a chance to come on camera. You could say hi. If you have a question or want to share an experience or an idea like all of you have, you can come on in. So we'll do this just for a few minutes for a chance to meet the author, and we'll give away a copy of the Google Apps Guidebook as well. So I'm going to throw this in as a caveat. If you've never been on a Hangout video before, just get to know where your mute button is. And also, if you're watching the YouTube feed, before you come in, you're going to want to mute the YouTube feed because it's going to give feedback. So let's try all of those things. It will be messy, but anyway. Who our takers are, Kern and Zach.
It won't bite.
Yeah. Come on in and say hi to us. Come ask a question. Come share. As we're waiting for folks to come in, and when you come in, go ahead and just mute your mic, and we'll introduce you. Do you want to tackle Christy's question? She said, you discussed the trust factor with your students. Do you have a set of criteria or a rubric for making determinations about students' level of trust about going out and helping teachers?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's super important. So my criteria, people will ask me, especially like other students and parents so forth, how do you get to choose who gets to go with you to Hawaii or who gets to go with you to somewhere? Like, what's that decision factor? And again, it's not that day, not that year, it's many times before. But the number one criteria, and I'll ask my students, what's the number one criteria I'm looking for? It's not your tech skills. That's great, but I'll help you with that if you need to know techie stuff. And it's not necessarily if you're a straight A student. And again, I want you to do your best, but it doesn't have to be that. It's I have to be able to trust you implicitly. And that means when I'm not even with you, right? So sometimes there's been situations when you've been at a workshop, you're presenting to 50 people, and I'm not anywhere to be found. I'm working the room next door. So I have to be, know that I'm going to, you're taking this seriously, you're being professional, and that happens over time. And that's why I say it's really important to work with kids, not just 1 year, but over time to say, they've shown that they're trustworthy, they really want to do this stuff. As I mentioned earlier, I've had students who want to be part of this, and I frankly can't trust them without being there. And so I've had very candid conversation with them and saying, look, I want to be able to trust you, but you have to show it to me. My analogy I make, or my metaphor, is trust is like a rain barrel where drip, drip, drip over, a year or two, it will fill up. But one bad situation might clear that rain barrel and fill it, drain it of water in a day or a minute. And so
I'm already envisioning a Google Docs template with the rain bucket and creating it into a rubric. I love it, the rain bucket.
Yeah.
And it looks like we had some people join us, yay, at the bottom. So why don't we, if you'd like, again, if you don't feel comfortable, just you don't have to talk. But I'll start down at the bottom with Karen, and I'll go the other way. But you can go ahead and turn on your mic, and you could do that by drop down and unmute yourself. And why don't you say hi and hello to Kern and Zach, and maybe where you're calling us from, and either a connection to student tech teams or student created lessons, or a question you have. So hi, Karen. Oh, did I shy Karen away? All right, Karen, we'll come back to you. Hi, Denise. Thanks for coming in. How are you? I see you, and I saw your mic go on and off again. Try one more. There you go.
Am I on?
Yes.
Yeah. Hey, thanks for joining us, Denise.
I'm from Virginia, and I am an instructional technology resource coach for an elementary, middle, and a high school. We're sort of set up by campuses in our county, so we have 3 campuses. And one of our campuses, actually, the librarian has full force taken this project on, and he calls it his Genius Hour or his Genius Bar. And the kids come in, and they work on our Chromebooks and learn those skills, and they're really intrigued, and really we just turn the learning over to them and they take it away.
That's fantastic.
Awesome, Denise. Cool. Let's see if Elizabeth just popped in. Hey, Elizabeth, where are you calling us from?
Hi, I'm calling from Connecticut.
Oh, awesome. Cool. And do you have student tech teams or student created lessons in any way?
We have, we're starting to do it a little bit this year. I love the idea about the internships though, that was brought up in the chat, because we do have internships at our high school level that some of our juniors and seniors will participate in for course credit. So it's one of the things that I want to actually explore further and take what the guys were presenting on. Exceptional stuff. So wonderful job. Kudos to you for everything that you guys have done up there in Maine. But it's something that I really would love to do at our district as well.
Awesome,
Yeah,
Elizabeth.
definitely connect. If you get, if you're setting up a team or whatever, let us know, because we'd love to connect with our kids. And
Sounds great. Yeah, we're not too far away from you guys, so that'd be great.
down the coast.
Awesome.
Right.
Look at that. Connections made. Awesome. Thanks, Elizabeth, for sharing. Hey, Christy, how's it going?
Hi,
Hey, where are
it's
you?
gone well. I'm in Northern Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C., and I'm at a K through 8 school. So I have currently 6 8th graders that come once a week during recess and help basically troubleshoot laptop issues. We have a cart that I teach computers, so I use that for all of our students, and they just come in and someone reset, the default browser on one of the machines. And so I don't always have time to make those changes in the middle of class. So I have my list of issues that need adjusted, and slowly working through teaching them how to, make those changes. And I was, as we were chatting and listening, thank you, Kern and Zach, for the info. I sent an email off to my administrators and said, hey, do you think for one of our 8th grade electives next year, I can start the year just saying, let's do a tech support class. And those students can then become assistants for teachers in the school. So yeah, excited to be here. Thanks, guys.
I love it. Action within the hour. And sometimes you just have to ask for this
I
kind
think
of
it's really important too. One thing you mentioned about troubleshooting. Troubleshooting is something that, again, kids have to do to learn it, and it's a hugely worthwhile skill. Now, they're very good. Most of our children around the world now are very good, on their phones or on their mom's phones or parents' phones or whatever. They're good consumers. But when things go wrong, they need to know what to do, and they need to be able to very methodically know what to do. And again, I think that's where we come in a little bit as education and say, hey, this is kind of methods you can use that will be more effective, and we help them do that. And every opportunity makes them better at it.
Totally. Thanks, Karen. And thanks, Christy, for sharing. That's super exciting. And I love that just where everyone's finding the time to make this work. The timing can be so hard, whether it's lunch or if it's a class or if it's recess. But I think the most important step is making that time for sure. So I love hearing all the creative ways. Hey, Chantel, thanks for joining. You had some great ideas in the chat for sure. Where are you calling us from?
Hi, I'm from Indiana, and I started a student tech team about 2 years ago now. We have a lot of support in our state for student tech teams at the Department of Ed level. And we actually have student events for student tech teams throughout the state in the fall and in the spring. And that's kind of how my team got started when I was in the classroom. And now that I'm the director of technology, I still am in charge of those high school students and still take them around places and give them some experiences. I've had them present at our state tech integration conference. They've presented over Skype or Google Hangouts to some other districts after some teachers saw them at those conferences. And in the summer in Indiana, we have what we call the Summer of E-Learning. So there are 23 different sites that bring in keynote speakers and have teachers giving sessions. And I've taken them to some of those conferences as well. And so their favorite presentation that they like to give is called Technology Ideas to Take Your Class from Meh to Amazing. And they kind of talk teachers through little things that they can do to help move their lessons dive deeper down into SAMR, and use the G Suite tools to really advance their lessons. So I'm pretty proud of them.
We're going to be in Indiana in a couple of weeks, actually.
Yeah, I'll be at the summit too. I won't have my students with me, but I'll see you there.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll be there. Yeah, awesome.
Oh, that's so awesome, Chantel. Thanks for sharing that. And I think students teaching pedagogy too. It's like, wow, like what better way for to help a teacher think about engagement or SAMR than a student who, you know, is receiving this instruction to help them. So it's just this huge cycle. That's so exciting. Guys, we're just about out of time. So I wanted to make sure that I gave away a couple books. First of all, thank you to all of our panelists that came, our mini panelists. I really appreciate Denise, Elizabeth, Karen popped in, Christy, Chantel. Super brave of you to just pop in and go with it, but really enjoyed all of your examples. Thank you to everyone on our chat. So nice round of applause for all of the great resources. I'm going to archive the chat because there's so many good ideas in there. And then I'll send that out to everybody. The archive of this video will be right here on the same YouTube channel link. But I'll send that along anyway, so you can watch it later or send it on to someone who, you know, if Christy was just trying to get support, you know, things like this might help get that okay or approval. And I think, Kern, before I give away the books, just showing on my screen, I think there's an online course coming this spring. So we have this list now. We'll share with you guys when that's coming and when that gets launched. May, you think, Kern? Is that right?
That's the hope, yeah.
And then, of course, stay connected at EdTechTeam. I think Google Apps Guidebook.com is where you go if you want to purchase either the digital version or the hard copy. But do stay in touch. We hold these books with these sessions with our authors once a month. And we love having people come in, like Elizabeth and Christy today, to share their stories and ask questions. But I'll give away a couple books right now. So I'm going to give away one to someone on the panel, and it's always the highly technical. Close my eyes and look and see where my finger lands, and I've got it landed on. Yay, Elizabeth wins from our panel. Thanks for coming, Elizabeth. You can go ahead and you could either at EdTechTeam me and I will on Twitter, and I can get you a copy of the book. And then on our chat, let's see, picking our winner from chat, just scrolling through, blindly picking. We've got Chantal won from the chat. So we had two panelists won our books today. Thanks again, everyone. I hope you get a copy of the Google Apps Guidebook. And thanks to Kern and Zach for sharing. Any final parting words to these folks going off and trying out tech teams on their own and Google?
Teach
Google
to learn. It's good for the kids to teach, and that's how they learn. So that's what we want.
I love it. Thank you, Zach. Thank you, Kern. And thank you, community. We'll see you online.
Thanks, guys.